This is James Randi, and you're listening to The Skeptic Zone.
Welcome to The Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's The Skeptic Zone, episode number 144 for the 23rd of July, 2011. Richard Saunders here with you from Sydney, Australia. I think it's Sydney, Australia. I sort of had a funny feeling I was just in Las Vegas, but no, I guess this is Sydney, Australia. More about my TAM adventure soon. Coming up on this week's show, some great interviews from TAM, the amazing meeting, from the James Randi Educational Foundation. It was a fantastic time. Wish it could have been longer, but there you go. I interview Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, the famous astronomer. And what a pleasure it was to meet Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's coming up, followed by a quick chat with our good friend and US correspondent for the Skeptic Zone, Travis Roy from the Granite State Skeptics. Now, he's had an interesting experience lately handing out skeptical cards at a John Edwards psychic event. I can't wait to find out more. Then we've got Dr. Rachie reports, and she catches up with Yau-Man Chan, you may remember from the Survivor series. Now, Yau-Man Chan is, of course, now a leading skeptic. Some secrets from behind the Survivor show coming up soon. Then to wrap up the show, it's Maynard back again. I think Maynard's got a fat fixation right now because he speaks to Lesley Wicks from the University of Newcastle about more research into fat. Yes, fat. She questions some previous research, and she reminds us all to be on the lookout and not to be fooled by magic bullets. In other words, magic pills, wondrous things that'll fix your problems on the spot. But now, let me cast my mind back a few days. Now let me think. Ah, yes, that lovely sound you hear is the sound of the South Point Casino and Spa in Las Vegas. Giant downstairs area, like 3 aircraft hangars full of slot machines and bars and racing videos. Amazing sight. Constant movement, constant noise. Skeptics 24 hours a day. Well, for me, this whole TAM experience was like a dream. After putting out the last episode of the Skeptic Zone, my brother kindly drove me to the airport. I found myself on that Delta jet flying over the Pacific. Got some sleep. Got a little bit of sleep. Landed in LA. Got through customs super quick. Thinking, ooh, maybe I can catch an early flight to Las Vegas. No, early flight was full. Okay. Sat around the Delta Lounge for a few hours. Wow, that's like watching paint dry. Finally got on that plane to Las Vegas. And that trip seemed to be a long time because I was so keen to get to TAM. Got off the plane at Las Vegas, ran out, joined the very long taxi queue. Oh boy. Finally made it to the hotel, checked in, raced up to my room. Quick shower, change of clothes, scrub up, and then straight down to the convention itself. I think I was really firing on adrenaline. Within an hour of being there and catching up with as many people as I could on the spot, I was taken away to interview Neil deGrasse Tyson, and that interview's coming up very soon. After that, it was back to the Skeptic Zone Skeptoid table to chat with Brian Dunning and Travis Roy. And then, I'm afraid things turned into a bit of a blur of meeting people and catching up with James Randi and lots of hugs all round. Next thing I know, I'm at the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe dinner, where they invited me to be the auctioneer that night. Had a great time, and helped raise a lot of money for our dear friends at the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. Next vague memory I have is being down at the Del Mar bar, a quick drink, a quick chat to some friends, and then to bed. I did get a good night's sleep, and then came Saturday. Woke up with the alarm, very groggy. Saturday, I was on the Getting Things Done panel, which was a lot of fun. Don't remember much of it, I must admit. I did a power balance demonstration with our Master of Ceremonies, George Hrubb, which went over very well. And then I entered the memory fog. I'm not sure what I did for the rest of the day. I had lunch with James Randi, I think. Chatted with as many people as I could. Had lots of Skeptic Zone fans come up to say hello, which was fantastic. Photographs everywhere. Some more fun. And my memory really fizzles into a blur of friends, faces, skeptics, questions, autographs, photographs, choreographs. And I'm not sure what happened. I think I ended up in the Del Mar bar that night for some drinks with friends. But that night, when I headed to bed, there was no sleep for me because jet lag had caught up. 3 a.m. I found myself back downstairs trying to surf the net, send some emails. So, then we come to Sunday, my last day. And Sunday was a case of catching as many of the speakers I could in the main convention area, which wasn't many. Again, chatting with people. And then my memories sort of fade into getting ready to leave. And by the afternoon, Dr. Rachie and myself found ourselves on the shuttle bus being taken back to the airport. Caught the flight from Las Vegas to Los Angeles, a few hours layover in Los Angeles, then the overnight flight back to Sydney. And it was as if I dreamt the whole experience. But you know what? I didn't dream this experience. It was real. And amongst all the blur of excitement and running around, I did manage to get some interviews. So did Dr. Rachie. And to all those people I didn't get to spend time with or only said hello quickly, all those people I wanted to spend time with and have a nice long conversation, I just didn't have the time. Let's make the time next year. I can't wait for TAM 10. Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson is an American astrophysicist, science communicator, and the Frederick P. Rose Director at the Hayden Planetarium at the Rose Center for Earth and Space and a research associate at the Department of Astrophysics at the American Museum of Natural History. Wow! He's also a very popular television science communicator as seen on Nova on PBS. I was lucky enough to catch up with Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson at the amazing meeting. And now I'm delighted to say we are speaking with Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Neil, what a pleasure it is to see you here in TAM, Las Vegas.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for you.
Absolutely my pleasure.
I've never been to Australia, but I think that it's on my schedule this coming fall.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I'll be speaking at Big Think, I think it's called.
Big Think?
Big Think. I think that's what it's called.
If you're going to think, you might as well think big.
Yeah, if you're thinking, think big.
You're probably familiar, we may have a mutual friend in Dr. Phil Plait.
Yes, of course.
The bad astronomer, and he was in Australia a number of years ago.
The bad astronomer.
Oh, yeah,
you got to say it right.
And it was my pleasure to show him the Magellanic Clouds. And he had quite an emotional experience to actually see them for the first time, shall we say, in the flesh, with the naked eye. So that's something I guess you'd look forward to.
Well, I've been in the Southern Hemisphere before, but just not to Australia. So
right.
I've been in South Africa. That gets you the same sky as you get from Australia.
So the Southern Cross and all the...
Oh, yeah. I think Southern Cross is overrated, by the way. It's only 4 stars. It's a rhombus, people. Where's the star at the transept? There is none.
Well, you see, you've got to be careful now because this is on our national flag.
And is it the Australian one, or is it one of the flags down there cheats and puts an extra star?
I think that's the Australian.
That's an Australian flag.
That's right.
You put an extra brighter one just to help it out.
Yeah.
See, that's the confession. That's admitting that the 4 rhombus stars of the Southern Cross were not working for you.
Oh, well, I mean, if something doesn't work in Australia, we just make it
work.
Make it work. Tack on that little extra bit of glitter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I'm very interested in, of course...
Oh, by the way, we're here in Vegas, and the biggest billboards in town are the Thunder from Down Under.
I noticed.
The partially dressed men shaking their stuff in front of women.
Yeah, how about that? I've been working out just...
You have some ways, I think.
I think you're right. Now, you're very well known here in the States, of course, for your television outreach. And I think you do things for Nova, if I'm not...
PBS Nova.
PBS Nova, of course, the very well-respected institution in American life. We don't have...
In science education as a...
Oh, absolutely. We don't have quite the same thing in Australia. We have a national broadcaster, which is run by the government, which does carry some of PBS programming. But what intrigues me is a man in your position being able to do that. Is that a particular joy in life, a particular thrill?
Contrary to what it might look like, or what people would want to believe, when given the choice, I'd rather just stay home and play with my kids. So anytime I'm seen in public in this way, either on television or giving talks, it's not so much that I seek it out. It's that I'm a servant of the public's appetite for the cosmos. And I get called upon, and so I serve that need.
Right.
I'm not actually seeking it out. Okay. I'd rather stay home and write my next book, for example, or do research, play with the kids, and go out with the wife to Broadway. This sort of thing. I'm a family guy. So primarily. And so the time that it takes away from my family when I'm traveling to give talks, it's because there's a pressing need for society, for the region, for the group. And so, as I said, in that sense, I'm a servant.
Yes.
And when I'm called upon it, then I try to be the best I can, right? It doesn't matter that I'd rather be home. If I'm out there doing it, I'm going to try to be as good at that as I can possibly be. And that involves primarily something that I think many people don't invest time in, is reflecting on what's going on in the mind of the person you're communicating with.
Yes, I can see your point.
That's what distinguishes a lecturer from a communicator. A lecturer, you walk in with your lesson plan and you just deliver it.
Yeah.
And they either get it or they don't.
It could be a video, right?
Could be anything.
Yeah.
All right? But there's no premise that presentation is thinking about how you might be learning that material. Now, there are people who are good learners out there, and it doesn't matter who's presenting the material, they'll get it. These are the straight A students. Yeah. They got straight A's because the teaching abilities didn't matter in their grade. If it did, they'd get higher grades for the better teachers and lower grades for the lesser teachers. But they get straight A's no matter who's teaching them. So that, as a factor, it illuminates the fact that some people learn on their own and don't really need much help.
That's true. Yes,
but it's the rest of everyone else where the quality of the teaching matters. And in that realm, in that regime, I think long and hard about who my audience is and how they think and what matters to them and how much TV do they watch and what movies might they have seen and are they wealthy? Are they impoverished? Are they oppressed? Are they entitled? Are they, what is the slice of demographics that they represent? And then I bring all that I know to bear on that specific slice. And some of that is trial and error. I might be explaining the universe, and I'll be monitoring the person, whether the person smiles or raises their eyebrows or looks interested and wants to hear more. I'm making mental notes of the words I was using, the phrases I was putting together, the sentences I was uttering, to see the causes and effects of their facial reactions to what I said.
Like mine right now, you're no doubt.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, definitely.
You have a wry smile when you said, when I'm explaining the universe. I thought, well, of course.
So that matters. And I think it doesn't matter to enough people out there who would want to count themselves among the ranks of educators.
Now, how does that then impact, or shall I say, sway or make you think hard about your television presentation?
Television was very hard for me because there is no audience that you can see. I had to transition from delivering lectures to roomfuls of people where you can see their reaction to what you're saying, monitor it, and make mid-course adjustments as necessary. A TV camera offers no such feedback.
Yeah.
And so I had to have enough experience thinking about how they would react and then deliver that content to TV camera.
Yeah.
So I have to trust my sense of it before I take those steps. And I'd rather have it staring at me in the face. I have more confidence that way.
I can really understand that
right.
point of view.
So TV, it's a different medium. I actually agreed to do a 12-part course in astrophysics called My Favorite Universe for what's called the Teaching Company, and it's an audio-video course. You'd listen to it or watch it, while you're, cooking dinner or something. It's a way to continue your educational trajectory, and it's not. And I gave a very short course, only 12 classes. They record professors giving 60, 80, 90 classes. And it's a way, as an adult, to continue to educate yourself in all branches of academic study. I agreed to do that as a stepping stone between lecturing to lecture halls and delivering my talks to a camera.
Ah, I see. Right.
Because in that, they had a cute little system where when you're delivering your talks, they don't film you in a real classroom. They film you in a studio. But there are 3 or 4 chairs in that studio, and as employees of the company, you can sign up and be in the audience of the subjects that you like the most. And so there's a little bit of an audience there to help me transition.
Okay.
And I think I made great strides in that helped me look at a camera lens and be comfortable doing so.
That's very interesting to hear. And of course, there's always the danger that you'll get gushing feedback when you do TV. And sometimes you have to wonder to yourself, well, people are just happy or excited because they're meeting somebody on television, or have they really felt and learned and gained from my
Yeah, I have mild statistics on that. It's more polite to comment that you like something than to comment that it sucks.
Yes,
right?
yes,
so
yes.
the data are biased towards you thinking that you did a good job.
Yeah.
In anything you do. It's biased, and it's a politeness bias, if you want to call it that. And so I try to always have a self-assessment that's more severe than what anyone else would levy onto me.
Yeah.
And in that way, if I feel I did something good, it's really good. All right. Whereas just because someone else tells me it's good, that's not for me the measure that it's good.
Yeah.
If I'm more strict than everybody else, then all I have to do is satisfy myself, and I'll know I'm doing well.
Do you find that you've been getting good feedback generally from the audience, not from the executives, not from the academics?
In the era of Twitter, because I have a Twitter stream in the last year and a half, 2 years, when I finally figured out how and why I should use Twitter.
Yes.
I tweet little cosmic tidbits, and I see people's reactions to them.
Right.
I don't tweet when I'm having for breakfast.
Yes,
I'm in the park now. I'm going to the movies. I'm going to see Harry Potter. Whose game? No. I'm an educator. I'm a scientist. I've got stuff to say about the universe. And so that's what I started doing. And I watch people's reactions depending on the nature of the information and how it was presented. So they have cues into what excites people and what does not, or what excites them in one way versus another. In the era of my Twitter stream, I feel that when I'm in front of an audience, I am deeply connected to their emotions, to their feelings, to their sense of awareness, knowledge, and appreciation of the material they're being that I'm sharing with them. So it was simply extended my access into the mind of the listener.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And again, it's that feedback too.
It's feedback.
It's very, very.
And for Twitter, it's
very
instantaneous.
Important. Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Even when I Twitter what I had for lunch, I guess. What I wish to have for lunch. Well, I think we're getting the hurry.
Oh, yeah, it was a very tight afternoon here. Yeah.
It is. You're a man who's much in demand. Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, what an utter pleasure it was to have
thank you.
A quick chat with you.
Thank you. And like I said, I'll be in Australia for my first time this fall.
And we look forward
to seeing you guys. We'll leave the Thunder from Down Under folks here in Vegas.
Good idea.
This is an EVP I recorded last night.
How you doing? I'm a ghost. What's up?
You guys can't possibly ignore that type of it. Hey, who are you? What are you doing in my... Oh!
EVPs are the result of pareidolia and cross-modulation combined with the listener's hopes and expectations.
What does this have to do with science?
I think you just got skeptically pwned. Well, gotta go. See you in hell.
666.
SkepticallyPwned.com.
Where false claims get kicked in the nuts.
It's Saturday here at TAM Las Vegas, and I'm at the table of Skeptoid with Brian Dunning.
I'm Brian Dunning from Skeptoid.com.
Yeah, you see, I don't lie. And I'm with Travis Roy. Hi, Travis.
Hey, how's it going, Richard?
I'm doing pretty good. Now, I wanted to catch up with you because you had some interesting success lately in a sort of a protest you were involved with. Can you tell our listeners about that?
Yeah, of course. We were alerted by one of our co-founders that John Edward was going to be doing a performance in Manchester, New Hampshire, and we worked with the venue, the Palace Theatre, to do a protest. And what we did was, as people went in to go see the show, we gave them a psychic bingo card. And it had a list of common cold reading terms, and what we did was we told them that it was to help them remember what was said during the show.
Right.
It was an 800-seat theater, and we handed out over 500 bingo cards. So we didn't actually find out if John Edward noticed, or if anybody yelled bingo, or if anything happened, but we assumed that he had to have noticed, because it was just too large of a percentage of people. Then we went and got dinner, and then after we had these Rational Guide to Psychic pamphlets that we were handing out, and it went really well. We actually had people that came out after the show looking for us and talked to us about what happened in the show and about cold reading and things like that. Dale, my wife and the vice president of Granite State Skeptics, she got into a little bit of an altercation with one person where they told her that she was stupid and to go protest animal cruelty and what's the harm in this. But other than that, it was a really big success.
And you got some media attention, I understand.
Yes, another one of our members is a writer for the Nashville Telegraph, which is a smaller newspaper, and he had one of their reporters come and interview us, and we actually made the bottom half of the front page of the newspaper.
Fantastic.
Yes, it went really, really well. Yeah.
So I know that was also mentioned online. There's a link. Where can people go to find out more about this activity?
If they go to granitestateskeptics.org, we have a story about everything we did and further details, and a link to the Nashville Telegraph story. So,
congratulations, Travis. Skeptical activism, that's what we want to see.
Yes, yep, definitely.
Hey guys, this is Jay from the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, and whoa, hold on, whoa! Everybody knows I'm the only reason to listen to the freaking show, right? I mean, if it was up to me, the show would start with this. Yeah, boy! Well, Rebecca would hate that, probably, but, I mean, I'd rock that. Listen to our show and you can learn about cool stuff like a technological singularity, which is someday when technology progresses so fast that it would make the Industrial Revolution look like a kid's science project. Anyway, come check us out at www.theskepticsguide.org and get your science on!
Now it's time for Dr. Rachie Reports with Dr. Rachel Dunlop.
I'm here at TAM 9 in Las Vegas, and with me now is Yau-Man Chan. Some of you may know him from Survivor, but he's not just a TV star. He's got a lot of other stuff going on. Hi, Yau-Man.
Hi, nice to meet you finally.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
I've been listening to you on the Skeptic Zone for so many years, and finally I get to meet you in person and talk to you.
Well, I've been watching you on TV for years, so it's really cool to meet you as well. So you were one of my favourite characters in Survivor. Characters, people. But before we get into that, let's just talk a little bit about your background, because you're actually, you have a life outside of being in Survivor, don't you? You work in IT. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yes. My actual formal training was in physics. I got my degree in physics at MIT and a graduate degree in scientific instrumentation. But in the time, in the 80s and so on, and the rise of the network, I sort of switched to computers and network. And now I am the Chief Technology Officer for the College of Chemistry at the University of California, Berkeley. Oh, so I'm basically the head geek for the College of Chemistry.
The head geek. So you were kind of portrayed as the geek in Survivor, weren't you? Because you were in two series. One was Micronesia, that was the first one, and then Fans versus...
No, I was in, let's see, the first season I was in Fiji.
Oh, Fiji.
Survivor Fiji, and then I was called back a year later for Fans versus Favorites, which was filmed on Micronesia, Palau.
Palau, okay. So tell us a little bit about the process. How do you actually apply to get into Survivor?
Well, I was one of the fortunate people who got recruited. Many of the cast members are recruited because for a show like Survivor to be interesting, they need a combination of characters. A lot of people who apply to these shows are like 20-something white male from the Midwest of the U.S., and so they need diversity. They need older people, they need Asians, and so on. So being an older Asian, they got 2 for 1 then when they got me. So I was approached by a producer who asked me if I'm interested, if I know anything about Survivor, and I say, yeah, but I don't watch TV very much, but I did watch the first season because it was Survivor Borneo, and I grew up in Borneo, so she got very interested and called me back a few times, and I got on, so I was very fortunate.
So what's the process of, before they actually let you know that you're on? Do you have to go through interviews and tests, and what do you have to do?
There is a very extensive interview process. So the last phase of the interview, when they're down to 50 people, just for reference, they have like 20 to 30,000 applicants, after every season. And so when they're down to the 50 applicants, we were sort of sequestered in a hotel in Santa Monica, California, and locked in the rooms, and we're called out for interviews and physical examination, product. I didn't know there's so many tests you can do with urine and blood. It's amazing. They don't want you to die on the show, right? And then we get psychological profile testing and so on, and then we get interviewed by Mark Burnett, the executive producer, and Jeff Probst and all that.
So you were one of the oldest people on the show at that time, weren't you? And so what is the process what do they do? They just dump you on a beach somewhere and leave you there?
Once you have been selected, but they never tell you you're really selected. They tell you you're a potential contestant. And then a couple weeks before they send you off, you're supposed to send them clothes that they will, keep the ones they want you to wear, and then they send the rest back to you. And then airline tickets show up, and you're supposed to, fly with them to wherever the island is. And there's a staging, so there's like 3 days of staging where, you get acclimated to the time zone, and we do all the publicity shots at that time. But we were not allowed to talk to other contestants. We could not even look at them for more than 30 seconds without being yelled at and starting to be thrown out of the show.
Really?
So when you saw us meeting each other and introducing each other on the island, that's the first time we talked to each other.
Oh, really?
Even after we've spent a week with them.
Right. So. How weird. So what was you went to Palau. Well, what was the situation like? What was the beach like? What do they give you when you get there?
In both the Fiji and Palau season, the beaches are very nice. The water's very warm, and that's why they have to do it in tropical islands, right? Otherwise they'll die freezing. But we were given, depending on how they start the season. So, for example, in the Fiji season, we would divide into 2 tribes, one with everything, one with nothing, where we were just given a pot and a machete, a big knife, and we're supposed to deal with it. But on those islands, it's easy to survive, really. I mean, there are coconuts everywhere, and there's, protein is sea snails, right? And so they know you won't die. I mean, so.
But you grew up in Borneo, you mentioned, so that sort of tropical weather, you're kind of used to that, right?
So I did have the advantage. Growing up in Borneo, I got used to the weather. I understand how to open up coconuts without spilling all the water and so on, yes.
Because you were telling me last night that there was a particular part where there was a box that the contestants were trying to open, and you said that... Tell us that story about how...
So the beginning of the Fiji season was that an airplane flew over and dropped a box on the beach. And in the box was a map to where the well is and some tools to build a shelter and so on. And all the big burly guys go out and try and open up the box. Well, it got dropped from the plane. Of course, it's very well, nailed together. They spent, 45 minutes trying to open. On the show, you saw them just trying a few minutes, but in real life, it was like 45 minutes. They were jumping on it like big gorillas and so on. They never succeed in opening it. And so I didn't want to say anything because being the older guy, and I was the oldest guy in that season, I know the young guys don't want an old guy telling them what to do, so I just stood back and watched them until they gave up and said, well, can I try? So I stepped up there and I sort of banged the box on the two diagonally opposite corners on a big rock, and the thing opened up. So suddenly I'm the genius. I go, well, isn't it obvious that all the expensive luggage you can buy have their corners reinforced because that's the weak point, right?
Yeah. So that kind of gave you, I guess, an advantage, but also a disadvantage, because then people figured out that you were actually smart, right? So in terms of you surviving, that could have been a threat.
That's a threat, but because most of the people in that season were really, sort of city folks who probably haven't been to ever camping even. And I thought that the way I would stay long is to be useful. So I spent a lot of time boiling water for them, cooking, and, just being useful and stay low. When we're in the tribal situation where if we lose a challenge as a tribe, you do not want to be perceived as the person who is the cause for losing the challenge. So, and making myself being the provider and just doing things for them, then they felt that, we should keep him around because he's not a threat.
Because you were the nerd that everybody loved. I mean, and I guess that's why they asked you to come back for favourites, because the nerd cheer squad out there watching you were going, go Yau-Man, because like you say, there were these big burly guys that were like, rrr, but you were the smart guy because you applied some critical thinking skills to tasks, didn't you?
Yes, because I know that muscle for muscle, there's no way I could compete with these, big guys. And as far as when it comes to handsome youth and beauty, there are a lot of, beautiful looking women there. And so I guess the way I had to deal with it was to say, look, I need to think through all these challenges. They look like they're brute force, but they're really not. I mean, anybody can have a chance to win that if you just think about how to do this properly and apply, science and so on. I could get by, and I end up, winning quite a lot of challenges when it comes to the individual challenges. So.
Yeah, but you didn't win in the end, did you, Yau-Man?
Yeah, no, but in the end, it's really a social game, and I didn't realize that. That's where I made my mistake. I went in game thinking it's some kind of game theory, strategic games, and so on, strategic, alliances and so on. Well, it's not. It really is a social game because in the 6 weeks we were together on the island, I didn't get to know the people, right? If I have talked to them, dig into their background, their life, and so on, I would have known that this person I have, deal with, I shouldn't trust him, right? It turned out he had a very harsh life growing up, dumpster diving for lunch with his brothers and so on. If I had known that, I would not have put a trust to somebody like that. But I didn't know because I was not a good social player. And so Survivor, in the end, it's a social game.
But you did get to the final three in the Fiji series, yes. Didn't you? And what happened?
And Dreams, who made a deal with me where I gave him the truck early on that when we get to the final, if he wins the immunity, he would give it to me. Well, he went back on his words.
Did he give you back the truck?
No, he didn't. I gave it to him in good faith, and they voted me out. But that's all right. That was a big gas guzzler anyway. Right?
So when you got back, you now have a connection with Brian Dunning, which I guess is kind of why you're here.
Yes.
Through the Skeptologist. So
yes.
How did you get involved in the
Well,
Skeptologist?
I have been listening to the Skeptoid podcast for a while. So when I came back, so the filming is over a 6 weeks period. So I've been away for 6 weeks. And when I came back, the first thing I do is catch up on all the, SGU and Skeptoid podcasts and so on. So, and in one of the podcasts, Brian Dunning was talking about trying to do a movie, and he was recruiting for, physicists, engineers, and so on to help him out. And so I wrote him. I said, I did not say that I'm a survivor. I just said, I heard from the Skeptoid podcast that you're looking. So I gave him my qualification, have the degree in physics at MIT. I work as an instrumentation engineer and so on. And so it turned out that Brian Dunning is a huge Survivor fan.
Oh, really?
And he wasn't sure it's really for me, right? So he actually called me and said, "Is this really you?" I said, "Yes, it's me." And he said, "I'm a huge fan," and so on. So he gave me a topic. He said, "Well, I still have to have you do an audition." So he asked me to do an audition and said, "Send me a 3-minute tape of you. I'll give you a subject." And the subject he gave me was, okay, tell me everything about, the evils of radiation from your cell phones. So I did a 3-minute thing about cell phones, non-ionizing energy, really not a big deal. And then towards the end I said, yeah, but there is something you need to worry about your cell phone, is that make sure you have the proper calling plan, otherwise you have a huge pain in your wallet at the end of the month. So anyway, so I was asked to join the cast for Skeptologists.
And so what is happening with Skeptologists? I know it's not being picked up yet. But...
Yes, it's very difficult to get a show on. I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of shows people are pitching. And so at this time, they have given up pitching the show to commercial TV. So they're looking at trying to pitch it to public broadcasting, PBS. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to write grants. So shows on PBS have to have sponsors, usually private foundations, educational foundations, and so on. Shows like Nova and so on are sponsored by Carnegie Mellon, Carnegie Foundation, and so on. So they're trying to write proposals to do that. And because of that, I have taken myself out of the show, and I would be helping behind the scene and maybe make occasional appearance, because the TV audience, the viewership for the PBS public television network in the US is very different than the viewership for the commercial TV. So my presence there do not add anything to it. In fact, they detract from it. Because in the public TV world, right, the viewership more towards the sort of educated and a little bit higher on the education scale.
So you're too much of a star.
Right, it was too much. Then it's sort of the reality TV, D-list celebrity do not add anything to it.
D-list celebrity?
Yes, it detracts from it. So I said, no, then take me out of it so that you get a better chance of selling this to PBS. And we'll see what happens. I mean, I'll be still working, help them behind the scene. They need any advice to doing instrumentation and so on.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, man, do you have a website or something where our listeners can find out more about what you do?
No, I'm on Wikipedia, but I gave up trying to correct it, because every time I correct something is wrong, somebody else re-corrected me. So obviously there are people out there who knows me better than me. But I used to write for the Skeptics blog. And I have stopped for a while because my mom was sick for a while, and now that she passed away earlier this year, so I would be back up writing the blog. It's the skepticblog.org. I did about a year of blogging there, and I'll continue to. I'll pick it up again. So
I guess people can just Google you as well, right?
Yes.
There'll be lots of references.
There are 100,000 Yau-Mans, then they all teach me. It's a very strange feeling.
Is it really?
Yes.
Have you found at TAM this weekend that lots of people have been going, Yau-Man?
I was surprised how many. I didn't expect that many people in TAM to recognize me. Okay, but and the Australian contingencies, right? And then I was just talking to a bunch of people from South Africa. It turned out that Survivor is very popular in South Africa.
Really?
Yes, I was surprised.
Well, I guess this is the place to come, because this is where the geeks gather, and the geeks were right behind you on Survivor. So
thank you.
Thanks for entertaining us for 12 weeks and for, not eating food and getting skinny and getting wet and having a horrible time on a beautiful island. But we hope to see you on TV again soon, Yau-Man.
Thank you, and I hope to see you in other events. And I hope you have TAM Australia again.
Oh, yes, we hope to have it in 2012.
Okay.
So
I'll make sure to come out. I'll give you a talk about the reality of reality TV.
That sounds awesome. Well, I hope to see you
so
there.
So maybe you'll get some non-skeptics coming to your TAM to get them into the movement.
Yeah, let's get some other people in as well. Yes. Skepticism's getting bigger and bigger, so, the more the merrier, I reckon.
Finally. It took a few years to get a foothold, but I think we're moving in the right direction, which is I'm very grateful for that.
Well, thanks for joining us today on the Skeptic Zone, Yau-Man.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Did you know Jeff Wagg participated in an alien psychic challenge? Did you know that George Hrab is an interstellar singing sensation? For these and other stories you won't hear on the Skeptic Zone, go to the Bolingbrook Babbler. That's www.bolingbrookbabbler.com. If you have any doubts, just remember this. The SGU couldn't debunk any of our stories, even when we offered them $5. So read the Bolingbrook Babbler for the unbelievable truth. That's www.bolingbrookbabbler.com.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
I'm speaking to Dr. Lesley Macdonald Wicks at the School of Health Sciences at the University of Newcastle. She is a nutritional biochemist. Is that right, Lesley?
My main area of expertise is in dietetics. I'm predominantly a dietitian, but I do have a PhD in nutritional biochemistry.
Why were you attracted to this area? What made you want to have a PhD in nutritional biochemistry?
I happen to be attracted to the area of fatty acids and antioxidants, which sits nicely under a nutritional biochemistry label.
Fish oil, yes or no? Is it as easy as that with antioxidants?
Well, nothing's as easy as that, but fish oil...
You spent all that time doing all those exams, Lesley, and you can't say yes or no.
I would say that supplementing with fish oil for certain really clear ideas, like around cholesterol metabolism and things like that, it's got some really good evidence, and fish oil is a really good supplement for those things. But as a dietitian, my first port of call is always eating first. You want to have a healthy eating pattern, including fish, in there rather than spending the money on supplements.
And Lesley, the area of diet, I'd say, would be one of those areas that would be full of woo as much as I don't know, it's almost like that's the area where there's a lot of scams going on, where people there's a current ad running at the moment. This guy says you can lose 6 kilograms in the first week or I'll give you your money back kind of thing. So you must be fighting that kind of stuff all the time.
You know, we all eat, so we all feel to a certain degree that we have expertise in eating. And diet's one of those words that has a whole range of connotations to different people, and a lot of people feel like they have expertise in those areas, and they do. That, you know, it's such a popular area, and overweight and obesity is such a huge problem that we're facing that you can come across that sort of ads like you just saw. We, of course, would not be happy to be trying to get someone to lose 6 kilos in 1 week. And
I would even go further than that and to say you probably maybe don't even need to go to a professional, because the answer is usually right in front of you. You basically exercise a little bit, or you basically don't eat in more food than your body needs. Isn't that what we should all know that by now?
Yeah, and it sounds so easy, doesn't it? Don't eat too much. Eat small portions and of the right types of foods, and exercise a little bit. But we live very complex lives, and sometimes people just need a little bit of help in the actual process, the strategies about how you do that very simple idea of eating healthy and exercising reasonably.
Dr. Lesley Macdonald Wicks, I've done an interview with Dr. Nicholas DiPatrizio, of course, who has discovered it looks like there's a strong link between the endocannabinoid receptors in your stomach, and if they were able to be blocked by an antagonist, that means you would not have as much craving or as interest in fat food. What impact would this have on obesity?
Maynard, as you know, I'm sure, and as people who are listening will know, obesity is a really, really complex area, and the reasons why we do overeat or the reasons why we do choose wrong foods are really complex and they're varied. So when you look at the sorts of research that Dr. Di Patrizio is undertaking, you can see that he's going to provide us with a little bit of an insight into some of the biochemical or metabolic processes that might be underpinning some of the choices that we're making. But to think that something like this is the only answer to obesity, I think is being a little bit naive. There will be a place in the care and treatment of people with obesity for drugs that might come out of something like this sort of research, just as there's a place for a surgical solution and just as there's a place for the sorts of counselling and solutions that dietitians undertake around getting people back into normalised eating patterns.
Yes, I think Nicholas Sayre has one element in there, and I think even he wouldn't admit that it would be any sort of cure for that, but it would be an interesting, and people are always looking for the magic bullet.
Yes.
You find that with the diet, they want one diet or they want one product or something that can do it for them. We're looking for the Viagra of obesity. That's what we're looking for to cure it.
The evidence tells us that it's just not going to be that simple. Even if you can find a pattern of eating that does lead people to lose weight, they do initially lose weight. But there is always this rebound effect, or there seems to be in the evidence this rebound effect. So a single magic bullet, it's a bit of a naive idea. I think the other thing I'd just like to point out with Dr. Di Patrizio's research is at the moment it's exciting what he's found. It looks very novel, and we haven't heard about these endocannabinoids having these sorts of effects on appetite from a localised region in the stomach, but it's in rats. He's doing this research in rats. He's doing it in a really stylised manner, and it has not yet at any point been able to be translated either into a drug or into some form of a clinical treatment program.
So even if they fast-tracked it, we've still got 5 to 7 years where we have to eat salad.
Yeah. And, that's a really good thing because salad's really yummy.
With the endocannabinoid research, basically, why aren't all dope smokers incredibly fat due to the munchies?
And, I think it's an interesting idea because I suppose you need to try and look at that idea in two ways. Is it different? And I don't know that we have any evidence that dope smokers are any fatter than or otherwise the rest of the population. I suspect they go across the entire weight range that's possible.
But they do watch some great television.
They must watch some great television, if there is such a thing. But I wonder if there's a different effect between people who may smoke occasionally and get a munchies effect, if you like, and maybe people who are more chronic users, they may not go through the same effect.
What I'm thinking about is the comfort food effect. Now, as a dietitian, this must be something that is really, people don't need to eat sometimes, but they do because, they're bored or they're watching TV, and that's what they always do when they watch TV, or they're alone. There's many reasons why we eat food, as you mentioned earlier. Is there a way to transform, instead of making comfort food be that fat stuff which fires off all these great things, and is there any way we can get celery to be our comfort food and enjoy it more somehow?
We fall back on our ideas of comfort food and they become our habit foods and they become our go-to foods. And some of the strategies that people need come to dietitians in order to help them develop. And really it's a partnership between the dietitian and the patient to find the solution that works best for them.
Let's get political now, Dr. Lesley. Let's start alienating some members of the audiences here. When you're in the supermarket and you're waiting to get your groceries done, you've got all your celery in your basket there, obviously, as that's what you eat, and you see magazines with people that are obviously they've been photoshopped, that's not the way they look. How does it make you feel? Do you think, I've got a lot more work coming my way, or does it just worry you about our society and young women particularly, and men who are vulnerable to this?
Well, it's very true that men are becoming increasingly vulnerable to these sorts of messages, and I think there's a whole lot of evidence out there in the literature around how people in general, and especially people who are very hooked into popular culture, can be really influenced by these sorts of images, and I think they are concerning. I myself, when I look at them, don't necessarily believe them because, like you say, that these people have been photoshopped and they've lost any blemish or any curve that's out of place, and so I don't find them as convincing.
We'll go on about this being reinforced to people all the time. I'm just wondering if more and more people are aware that it's a fantasy and they actually know that. I just wonder if more and more people, even young women and men, they know that that's a fantasy in the first place.
And isn't that something that we like to undertake, fantasy? And if it was kept to just a fantasy, if it was kept to something that we looked at as idealised and we could immerse ourselves in it for a little bit and didn't have too much of a negative impact, perhaps it would be a different thing. But unfortunately, I don't think that is what those images do. Just personally, myself feel that some of those images are quite damaging.
Who do you think would be an image of someone who would be a good example for people? I mean, sports people are often held up, but then again, they're pretty obsessive with training, and I'm not sure everyone would want to be that obsessive about something either. Is there someone who you think is a good role model?
I think that you have to find your role models within your own life.
Hey, now that's a great piece of wisdom. But again, that's exactly like, you shouldn't eat too much and exercise. That means we've actually got to do something, Dr. Lesley.
Yes, I know. Sometimes the feeling of how difficult that is can be really quite paralysing. But it's a step-by-step process, and it's hopefully something that dietitians or practitioners in this area can help people overcome that sense of it's just too hard.
Pharmacology developments are just one weapon in the arsenal of obesity, against obesity.
I do feel that there is a range of treatments that we're going to have to offer people so that they can make a choice that personally fits with their life, but I would be wary of a magic bullet approach because for such a complex disease, we limit ourselves if we try and take a simplistic view of it.
If there was any information on the internet there that you would suggest we could go to get true information about some dietary issues there, what would you recommend?
Well, the internet provides us with a lot of good information, but you need to view that information with a critical eye and think about whether or not it's realistic. There are some very good sites out there, but there's also a lot of information that could be spurious at best.
Wow, thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. What an interesting episode this week. I think I'm still a bit jet-lagged, and my voice certainly doesn't cope well on those long flights across the Pacific and in that casino environment. Never mind. Next week on the Skeptic Zone, more interviews from TAM9. TAM9 from Outer Space, it was called. And I'll just... all right, I'll rest now. I'll have a bit of a recovery. I might race downstairs. What will it be this week, folks? What will the drink be? What will the drink be? I bet you can't guess. Honey mead. I'm going to race down and have some honey mead. I don't think I've even got any honey mead. I'll go out and buy some. Let you enjoy the rest of your week. And until then, this is Richard Saunders signing off from, I think it is, unless my air ticket brought me somewhere else, Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to The Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.